Hey, I'm Christopher, and welcome to Holy and Messy again. Have you ever known about God but never really felt Him personally? Today, we're exploring that turning point, the moment when God stopped being an idea in your head and starts becoming someone you could talk to, lean on, and experience in your life. I've invited Matthew to join me. He used to practice Reiki and was deeply involved in the New Age circle, but then something happened. Whether through the dramatic encounter, a quiet revelation, or an answer prayer, that shifted everything for him. Through his story, we'll see how faith becomes personal, how God meets us right where we are, and what it looks like when we abstract suddenly becomes real. This is episode 2 of The People, The Path to Faith. Let's dive in.
I was involved in New Age spirituality. I was involved in Reiki, mediumism, yoga, like really involved in yoga beyond the physical stretching. I was very involved with an organisation called ISKCON, quite significantly. That was definitely the route I was going down. So, which is of course Hindu in origin, yogic in origin, and because of that, I believed in this New Age mentality that all paths lead to God. God is this sort of Unitarian or universal approach to God, and that God was whatever either you chose for Him to be, or how He decided to manifest Himself in your life, which is taught massively in Hinduism. That God is, you have the Godhead, and some people will be approached via Christ. Some people will be approached via a Hindu deity. It could be Norse mythology for some people, and for some people just aren't meant to find God in this lifetime, as well as they put it. So that is very much what I believed as well. I completely bought into that. It's all love. We all get reincarnated.
About love, right?
Yeah, it's all about love, man.
Yeah, it's all love, peace.
Their version of love, a distorted version of love. But when you're in it, it's really convincing as well,
For sure. Everyone's just looking for a comfortable love, right?
Comfort, healing, peace, escapism. A lot of it's escapism.
It's so Christian.
Yeah.
Right? The word itself is super Christians, but actually it's not.
But no, it's inversions of it, and it's twisted variants of the truth. Deceptive, attractive, convincing,
Yeah.
I was completely immersed in it, and I can see why so many people are.
Yeah.
It's a crazy world to be involved in, absolutely. Yeah. So I believe that about God. I believe that He was universal, all paths lead to Rome, as they say, and that Christ was just one of them, and He was an option, and of course, in Hindu doctrine, especially in the likes of ISKCON, they like to convince you that they are the highest form of path, that there are many paths, and that they are higher than Christ.
Yeah.
They are higher than all of us. You can choose those other paths if you want, but they will convince you that they are more difficult.
Yeah.
It's a narrative that's obviously, that is pushed a lot. And I believe that as well. I believe that what I was involved in was the highest route to God and the quickest. You can really be indoctrinated into what they teach you quite quickly if you're susceptible to it. Definitely, and I was definitely susceptible to it. So, stepping out of that has been...
It's just specifically, is it like on the broad New Age umbrella or just Hinduism?
Hinduism and ISKCON specifically, Vaishnavism as they call it. Hinduism. Well, I can see how that kind of that same statement could be... Those same statements could be true for the New Age and on the whole, really. I experienced a lot of it with the mediumism and the mediumship and the Reiki.
You're into loads of stuff, dude.
Yeah, man. Everybody, it's actively encouraged a lot.
Yeah.
You see it and people are like, try out this, try out that. You should do all of this. It's all about like leveling up, spiritually, evolve your consciousness and all of these attractive titles that make you think that it's essentially about almost like a computer game. Yeah. A spiritual computer game, like you've got to level up.
Oh, I kind of like that term.
Yeah.
It's the first time I hear it.
Really? Spiritual computer game, man, honestly. Level up. Just keep leveling up.
Learning new skills.
Right? Talking to the dead.
Your new skill trees, make it thrive.
You
can learn lots of stuff.
Exactly. And you start off with, you start off with some of the basics. And it's very easy to quickly fall into dangerous practices that are painted in a way that looks fun or loving and so on, and actually it is all.
So when you felt like our God is real?
In the experience that I had, I was at home one day,
Yeah.
and I was like in my bedroom, and I was like folding, washing or something, you know,
Okay.
just like getting on with it. And I had a vision of Christ all of a sudden. It was quite quick, and I was surrounded by this immense feeling of love. And in that visual process, he cupped my cheek, was sort of crouched before me. I was like a child, but not a child, you know. And he said, "Don't do it." And I was like,
Don't do what?
I was like, I don't know at the time.
Oh, okay.
I'm not entirely sure. I think it was the New Age stuff that I was involved in.
Okay.
Because it went quite quickly, because I was a bit like freaked out, you know. And it was just, don't do it. And I was surrounded by love. It was a bit of an unfolding process. It wasn't just that moment.
Is it a feeling that you haven't experienced back in when you're still practicing Hindu?
So I'd had these sort of supernatural, or as if you want to call it, experiences of love, especially in like Bhakti yoga that I was involved in, which is all about love, essentially. And I thought, to me, these spiritual experiences were very profound at the time. And I thought I'd experienced love from God because of these experiences. And then when that experience came with Christ, which was completely out of the blue, and I wasn't looking for him,
I remember that.
It was massive. You know, like the love that surrounded me, I'd never felt anything like it. It was just beyond possible for us to create ourselves. I was just surrounded by it, you know, and it was one of the very significant parts of me realizing that he is God. It's like everything else that I'd experienced beforehand was like a cheap copy of who he is. Trying to emulate that, but not really even scratching the surface, you know. And of course, this seemed massive to me, my experience with him, and it was. But it's only going to be you can't even compare that to his overall size, you know, and the depth of his love. But in that moment, it was very profound for me personally. And it was the days and the week that followed that it was the first step in quite a chaotic and quite profound and incredibly scary week as well. So that was the first moment. It was that visual experience of him.
Okay, like visual.
Yeah, you could see it was a vision. It was a whole vision.
I thought you felt it.
No, you saw him as well. So you saw him cupping. It was like everything. It's almost like putting on a VR headset.
Yeah,
does that make
I kind
sense?
of understand that. Like because because from a background as well, you know, studying, practicing New Age. And try to meditate a lot. You know, you don't know what's the meaning and how do you define reality. And and the spiritual realm already. Like sometimes you're in between, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of understand that.
Yeah, that's what it was like. Like everything just vanished and it was just him for a split second. And I knew it was him immediately.
Yeah.
You know, and it was white. Everything was white. I don't mean in complexion. I mean everything was a different shade of white. You know? And that experience unfolded. And then it was this sense of like, don't do the things that you're involved in. But I was already in denial about it at that point. I think there was nervousness about what I was involved in anyway, and doubts. But I was so afraid of the truth that I wouldn't accept it. I think some part of me was deep down knew, had started to become aware that these things that I was involved in weren't quite right. Because I went into it with the best intention. Like I didn't think that it was...
I think everyone got the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to find out the truth. I just want to seek the truth. Like, what's the meaning of being in... Like, what's the purpose of life,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
This must be something more than this so-called 3D reality world, you know? But, you know, that's how the enemies tempt us into finding the false truth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd started to have inklings for a little while, but I was convincing myself that I was just paranoid and so on. And then I was still somewhat in denial, I think, even after that experience with him. And then he made sure all of that changed over the next few days. You know? So that was the first step and quite a profound.
Okay. Have you asked the questions even to nowadays, like why truly, or what the intention of yours, or what drives you to seek for something more than reality?
Have I asked myself that question?
Yeah.
What drives me to seek for more beyond base reality? And
for me, it's like
reality?
Curiosity for me, because I believe there's something out there.
Yeah, I mean, I do consider it sometimes. I think deeper meaning to it.
Deeper meaning.
Yeah, of course, and because this can't be it, you know. As grateful as we can be to God, like, you know, we see how superficial a lot of some of the world can be, you know, and I think that's a big part of it. I always had an interest in more, even though I was quite atheist when I was young. I was always interested in aliens and so on. So I think there was a foundation there for belief in something beyond our existence.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe not just necessarily God. It probably took after my dad in that aspect. He was very atheist. Raised a Christian, Sunday school the whole way through, you know, in the choir and so on. Methodist parents, you know, very devoted in their faith. But he was like completely atheistic, you know. And yeah, I think that's where a lot of that came from. It's quite a mixed upbringing, actually. Like, I was raised a Catholic to an extent, went to Catholic school. Mother's side of the family were Catholics. My grandmother had got me into the tarot, introduced me to tarot cards by the time I was like 8, maybe 6, you know, because there's an ancestral sort of history of divination and all of that sort of stuff as well. And then Methodists on the other side. So, yeah, a bit of a mixture. You had atheists, New Age, Christianity, just all of these influences.
You got it all.
Yeah, the whole
You're the guru. Connect with the spirits.
Yeah.
In a New Age kind of mentality.
Crazy, man.
That's messed up, man.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's get to the second question. So you just share a lot about like how you met Christ, right? You feel like it's a different feeling and there's a different vision as well. And yeah, that's what you experience. So can you talk a little bit more, like how Christ truly walked into your life or truly connect with you?
So over the course of that period, maybe a week or 3 weeks before this visual experience and this sort of supernatural encounter with him, I'd started to become involved in charities locally to me that were Christian, and a couple of guys that I met there were inviting me to Bible study and so on. And then I had the visual encounter with Christ, which was of course profound, the most profound experience I've ever had. And I remember at that time I was like, you know, like, that was Jesus, you know, Jesus has just visited me. But again, still in this New Age mindset a little bit. Like, why is he visited me, you know? And I was amazed by it. And then a couple of days pass from then, and I start to have these horrible experiences visually. Almost like I was under attack spiritually. It was horrific. I started to have horrible intrusive thoughts. I was having these visions consistently of like I was being attacked by things that looked like Hindu deities as well, just spirits.
How does it look like?
It's hard to describe. If anybody watching, if anybody knows what Kali looks like, very similar to that. So people would have to Google it. I wouldn't encourage looking into it too much because it's a bit weird. They looked very similar to that. It was ghostly, it was demonic, it was weird. I was having these horrible paranoid thoughts and stuff. And like I'll emphasize as well, like at the time, because I was so involved with ISKCON, for those who don't know, there's a massive emphasis on sobriety and purity. So I wasn't doing drugs. I didn't even drink alcohol. I didn't smoke. Even having a coffee was like a big deal, you know. Only as and when I was vegetarian. Completely involved in it. So yeah, there was that. And this was all completely sober-minded. Have been for a very long time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do ask that, you know, at the time, were you doing any sort of drugs? Even Christians as well have asked me, like, were you doing any sort of drugs at the time? And the answer is no, you know. So yeah, I had these experiences, these visual demonic experiences, and I was freaking out. And internal visions that manifest in what they'd call the mind's eye, you know, constantly. It felt like there was energy going up and down my spine that was under attack, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. It was like waves of this spiritual attack, and I went to stay with my family because I was like, there's something wrong, and they don't live nearby. So I remember ringing up my mum and being like, I don't know what's going on, because she's aware of the New Age stuff. You know, she's comes from a background of being aware of all of this stuff as well.
Okay.
You know, she'd been to mediums and had readings from them and so on. And I was like, something's going wrong and I don't know what's happening. But I need to come stay with you because I don't feel like I can even be on my own right now. Because of course I lived on my own. And I went and stayed with her. It continued for a few days. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point where I thought, something has gone wrong. I need to go to the hospital. So, because I just was, you know, having these delusions, intrusive thoughts that were just crazy. These spiritual manifestations. And I went to the hospital. I've actually jumped ahead a bit. So I'm at my mum's, and this is a point where it becomes a bit more personal.
Okay.
I'm at my mum's, and I thought, I'll go for a run to clear my head. And I run. I end up in a field because I thought I'll go run in nature. You know, there's a lot of fields nearby.
Yeah.
And I got to that point in that field, and it was just getting worse. And you know, I was having these strong experiences spiritually. Bear with me.
Like, is it like in nature, right?
Yeah. And I was confused. I didn't know what was going on. My head was all over the place. And I kept having these spiritual experiences, as you'd call them. And
you still don't know how to pray back then, right?
No,
like,
I'm
because
not in that
because
way.
you're not there yet.
No. I was used to mantra and so on. You know, of course you know about mantra.
Yeah.
And prayer in Hindu traditions and so on. And I was in this field. Sorry, I got a bit thrown off then. I was in this field and I was really confused still. I was completely distraught. I was like, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, something's going wrong. And I had another visual experience, which was of Christ. And I could see his feet next to mine in the sand. Like, everything around me changed. And I could see his feet next to mine in the sand. And he said, I will shoulder you. I will carry you. And I calmed down for a little period and went back to my mum's house. And then the next day it continued. So I was like, I need to go to the hospital. I don't know what's going on.
That's the experience that you couldn't bear with, right?
Yeah, it was completely. You know, I've probably made it sound a bit lighter than it was because it was scary. You know, it's still about. This is the first time I've publicly shared it. You know, obviously my friends and people close to me know about it, but so yeah, I ended up going to the hospital the next day because I was like, I'm scared of what's happening, basically.
It's way more than you can handle, right?
Yeah, of course. I didn't know what was going on. I try and meditate because that's what I was into at the time. And the deep breathing, you know, it helped a little bit, but this stuff just kept coming on in waves. Especially, it was crazy. So I go to the hospital, talk to them. They run all of their checks, do their physical checks and so on. And they're like, you're just stressed.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing wrong. We've done your bloods based off of and the physical checks necessary, based off of what you're saying to us and the fact that you're sober and so on. This is just stress. And I was like, in that moment, I thought, God's speaking to me a little bit there, I think. You know, so you're going to be fine. It's all going to pass in a few days. And I was like, I'm completely, like, my head's all over the place, you know?
Yeah. Feel hopeless, right?
Yeah.
Desperateness.
Like, it was horrendous.
Yeah.
But in that period in the hospital, a lady came and sat next to me out of the blue. And she started a conversation up with me out of nowhere. And she said, I used to do Reiki. And then I had a bit of a breakdown in life and found Jesus.
She just told you that, right?
Yeah, out of the blue. She just started to speak to me out of nowhere.
It's mental.
An little old woman.
Right?
She's like an angel.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm already freaking out. You know, I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And she's like, and then I met Jesus. And that was like she started to try and talk to me, you know, and then she said that. It was very quick. And that was actually quite mild. She said it was like her breaking the ice, you know. And she said, and then I found Christ and I started to speak to people about it at the church that I got involved with. She told me a bit more about her own personal story and so on, but I'll leave that to her, you know, about her own life.
Yeah.
So I'll try and keep in the things about faith. And she said, and I started to speak to people about Reiki, started to speak to people in the church about Reiki. After this experience of finding Jesus, because she had a bit of a supernatural encounter herself. And she was very confused because she was like, I had all these lovely visions of flowers and stuff and all these colourful visions and it was all so nice. And the church was telling me, like, it's demonic, you know, you need to be careful.
Yeah.
And she went through a bit of a battle in her own life in that period after Christ came to her. And she stepped away from the New Age practices that she was involved in. And she told me all about that. And she said that she said he sends me around and I end up speaking to people on park benches and so on.
Okay.
I just seem to find myself in a position where I have to talk to people for him. And this was happening right now. And she knew it. I think, you could see it looking back, like she'd already probably had a bit of a prompting from the spirit. So you need to speak to that dude over there. So she's talking to me about this in this waiting room. She's telling me this story. She gave me a number and so on because I was like freaking out. I was like, I don't even know if anybody's real.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know. Are you real?
My grandmother was there. She's like, no, she is sat here.
Yeah.
I was like, thanks. Reassurance. My head was all over the place, man.
Yeah.
And then she had to go in for her checks. And I go and sit over the other side of the waiting room. I moved seat after getting a drink. Somebody came and sat in the seat I was in. And then this girl gets pushed in a wheelchair. And I look at her because she looks like she's been in a fight or something.
Okay.
And she bends over. She's got this bowl that you spit blood into, like when you're in a hospital, the little cardboard ones. And she bends over to spit blood, and a rosary falls out.
Oh, okay.
Swinging.
Okay.
And I'm like, whoa, like there's some serious stuff going down around me. All of these little signs were happening in that moment. And again, like I said, the
It
hospital
reminds you of his presence, right?
yeah,
Something like
everywhere.
that.
It was so weird. It was unnerving. It was profound and it was strong, but it was unnerving. It was a scary experience. So I've got that happened. The waiting room thing happened. This lady exchanged numbers with me, and she really helped me with my transition. I spoke to her a little bit about stuff in the days preceding. It turned out that when she was in hospital, she'd had a chest pain, and they said that it was a phantom chest pain. There was nothing wrong with her. Obviously, being the age she was at, she felt like chest pain.
How old was she?
She was in her easily late 60s. She was an older lady, and the chest pain was a phantom pain. There was nothing wrong with her. So, she was there.
Yeah.
Because of that reason.
Yeah.
If we look, it depends on how we look at it. Then I went home, continued to stay with family for a little bit because these things continued. I started to pray the rosary, which helped.
Yeah.
A lot at that
because of your
period.
Catholic background.
Yeah. Not with the visualization. I just did Hail Marys. My mind went back to it. Prayed the rosary. My mum had already started to go back to church, so she shared the Bible.
Because of you?
She dipped in and out, and then she hadn't been... No, she'd gone up until the point my dad passed away.
Oh, okay, cool.
She then stopped going because of the emotional impact, because it was the same church that we'd had his funeral in, and of course he died young because of his circumstances. And so, fairly young anyway. And she had since then just engaged with her Bible app, which I wasn't aware of until this point, and she shared it with me. So I started to use the Bible app and pray the rosary constantly, and the rosary definitely helped. I started to pray Catholic deliverance prayers over me, and go through that process. And I was there for about another week, and it was rough. Like my whole worldview is like collapsed alongside everything else that was happening in my life.
Deconstruction, right?
Deconstruction of my view on faith, Christ, who He is, on God, on spirituality, on the nature of our spiritual reality, And then all of these things in my life are changing in the following weeks. Like God just completely flipped my life upside down.
Yeah, I remember that part. I remember that thing.
Yeah. New house just came to me. I wasn't looking for it. It was a bigger house.
New job
came to me. Didn't look for it.
Yeah.
Faith came to me. I wasn't looking for it. A friend of mine, offered to teach me to drive for free.
That's crazy. Actually, your experience and your journey is quite similar to what Imi has, right? Like everything just turned overnight.
Yeah, even being raised Catholic,
Yeah. That's
going
right.
into the New Age and stuff. So you can see, it definitely helps. She was a massive support through this process for me as well.
Yeah.
Very good to talk to about it, of course, because of her experiences, very open-minded, so I could share with her and feel comfortable, because many people would have been like, wow, this guy's crazy.
Yeah. I find it interesting, when you're sharing about the New Age kind of side, the New Age side of spirituality. I find it amazing because when we practicing New Age, when they got loads of gods, right?
Yeah.
They got loads of idols, right?
Yeah.
And we worship them, right? And we just say like, yeah, 1H because of the oneness of the spirit. And that's why we all connected.
I believed it, man. I was right in it, you know.
Yeah, right? But the thing is, when Christ walked in, there's always going to be a different story.
A whole different story.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I used to, just meditate and, look in all these tunnels and, connect with the spirits and whatever, there's loads of little stuff. We could start another episode. Just like I said, we could start another series about how New Age, infiltrate like to the world now. Yeah, the spiritual warfare stuff. We're not going to talk a lot right now.
About it.
But always when Christ walked in, it's always going to be a change. And all these idols would start attacking. They would try to attack that person that truly want to know more about Christ.
Yeah, 100%.
Not like the others. When for example, when you try to worship the Kundalini thing, when you try to worship, when you try to practice like the Buddhist, Buddhism, then they're fine with that.
They're fine with it, and it seems difficult when you're in it, because I experienced a lot of this, and so much of it focuses on healing.
Oh yeah,
healing
for
trauma,
sure. Yeah, crystal,
cleaning yourself, getting rid of all,
Exactly.
Oh, I've forgotten some of the words.
It's all right.
Past they say in yoga, I think, sitting in the fire and burning up all of the
that's
blockages
right.
and so on.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with your own personal things when you're in those spaces, which is why they can be so alluring and so convincing as well.
Yeah.
But you sort of really left alone spiritually.
Yeah.
I think some people might experience a little bit of stuff, maybe a small false spiritual attack, because it's all got to be convincing and it's all a very elaborate lie. So people have difficulties, but coming back to Christ and what you experience in faith, particularly with spiritual attacks and spiritual warfare, is a whole different game.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole different ball game from what you experience there. But in there, it is convincing, and they're also, they're all echo chambers as well. So it's elaborate and it's multi-layered.
Yeah, it is. It's like a whole completely new force walk into the room.
Yeah.
Then these guys just want to draw you away. No. Yeah. He's not a god.
No, and I've had that constantly in my own process and battle. The love that they push and the oneness and the universalism is a very attractive thought.
Yeah.
A very attractive thoughts and very attractive beliefs, and quite hard to disbelieve as well when you've been in it, because it's all about love, as we say.
Yeah.
So to then come out of it and realize that it's not what it's painted to be, even though you could have met some of the most loveliest people you've come across in those spaces, is quite a difficult process to go through. And I've definitely experienced a bit of a tug of war between having complete faith in who Jesus is, but also struggling to accept and believe that the other things are completely evil.
Yeah.
Essentially masquerading as light, because it's very attractive, like I said, and it's all about love.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's innocent on the surface.
The saddest part is, some of the churches, they started to have this kind of mindset and mentality and attitude within churches now.
Yeah.
That's the saddest part.
Yeah, absolutely agree, man.
Yeah.
It's really complex. I'd have to try and figure out how to articulate it properly from what I've learned my own self, but it's a complex sort of web of
That's great.
deceit and all sorts.
That's right. You just mentioned like you still experience that spiritual attack right now, right? It's still going hard on you. But how do you, during the waves of attack, how do you still stay connected to God?
Prayer. Absolutely. For me, it's been massive. As mentioned before, I began to pray the rosary sort of out of the blue. It's what I anchored back into at the start of all of this. And since then, I have become aware of the Jesus prayer, which is a traditional Eastern Orthodox practice that is now ventured out, and made its way out into many different areas of Christianity. I use a prayer rope to help me remain focused on it. Sometimes I just do it in my head, but the Jesus prayer has been the most profound weapon against spiritual attacks, in my opinion. Quoting scripture is good, and that helps. But when I first started, a period when I was going through a lot of this and it was still fresh, I reached out to a lady in South Africa that I was aware of, who was a former medium. Big one. She was
Former
medium.
Okay.
So I had followed her extensively when I was involved in New Age practices. She had quite a big following, tens of thousands of people, you know. So she was. This is on social media, so she was she was famous as a medium, you know. And she found Christ, and she converted. She left it all behind and became a very outspoken speaker. On this.
She's still active, right?
Yeah, big time. Still got tens of thousands of followers now.
It'd be great if sometimes, in some day in the future, we could invite her to come over and do a little podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
An online one, maybe.
Yeah.
Possible. I mean, she wanted the same, in our direction. She's mentioned that to me in the past, so you never know. But I reached out to her at one point. I knew who she was. I carried on following her even before I had converted because it had interested me anyway. And one day during prayer, I was really struggling and I felt really quite a big pull to reach out to her. And she got back to me quite quickly and quite promptly and gave me a lot of advice on what to do. And she shared with me the armour of God, which I pray most mornings. It should be every morning, typically, which of course is biblical. It's a biblical prayer, or biblically inspired prayer, which you should really, from what I've read, do evening and morning time to help equip you through the day. She also shared with me that maybe particularly because of what I had opened myself up to, or in general, I'm not quite sure. Sometimes you might need to pray for quite a long time. You might have to sustain prayer for sort of 20 to 30 minutes because these things can come on in waves, and they will persevere. Consistently attack you. So it can take that. Sometimes it's maybe 10 minutes, but at its worst, you might need to pray for quite a long time. Which is where short form prayers like the Jesus Prayer, for example, are profound and amazing for spiritual warfare. And it's completely changed my walk with God as well. To pray, I believe, means to talk with, really. And in those moments when we're praying, we are talking with God. And just as me and you are connecting now, when we pray, we are connecting with God.
Yeah.
So if we try to maintain that continuous connection with God and have that intention to do so through prayer, he will arrive, and he will support us with what we're going through. But we also have to do our bit, I believe, to maintain that with him. That's what's necessary at times. And the Jesus Prayer, if you wanted to learn more about it, the Orthodoxy, for example,
This is out there. It's out there.
Mountains of information on what you should be aware of, how to engage in it, and so on. You can learn a lot more about it from men and women a lot more versed than myself in the practice. But it has changed my walk, and particularly with regards to spiritual warfare, it's as they describe it over in the Orthodox denominations. It is the sword that you acquire against spiritual warfare.
Yeah, I want to explain a little bit as well. For in the modern days, loads of us and brother and sister, and especially we're studying Protestantism. Like loads of we will think we'll have the concept. I don't know where it's from. Like we'll think like, this prayer is all about chanting, right? Especially no matter it's like from the Catholic or from Orthodox. I don't know why. It's weird. We just have the concept. It's just chanting. I was
afraid of it because of my background in the New Age and so
exactly,
on.
Right? But I must say it's not. It's not because it's like Anglican, right? Yeah. We still have a common prayer books. The prayer, like. It wrote by the early church fathers. It wrote by some really, people who really walk closely to God. And it's just an inspiration because that's what they pray. That's why they wrote it down. Sometimes we thought we know how to pray as Christians. But I must say, when I look back to the day that I just begun my faith, I was just praying for nonsense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just praying, oh Lord, I want this, I want that, please give me this and please give me that. But now, it's more like praying, it's like prayer for, oh Lord, like what is your will, right?
Yeah.
No matter what I'm going through, like what is your will? So actually loads of prayers from, the people that wrote down, no matter Jesus prayer, even like the loads of prayers from the common prayer books, from the Anglican, or even from the Catholic Church. Actually, loads of them is inspirational, and it's kind of like a sample that lead us to pray and help us to pray. It's not just praying that words is going to be okay. No, it's more like giving us a direction. Oh, what I should pray for and how I should pray.
Absolutely.
And it corrects our heart most of the time, right? So, that's why I want to explain a little bit. It's nothing wrong for this prayer. So, we need to have a critical thinking. To think of like how do we use these materials from churches. Of course, there's some of them out there is quite dodgy. And it's quite, I don't know the words. It's just a little bit dodgy. But still, try to study more about the history and study more about our faith. So I think that's the beauty side and beauty, the part of beauty of our faith. So yeah, that's what I want to say. So carry on.
No, I completely agree, man. Absolutely. Like I expressed during, I was afraid of it and I battled it a lot because it reminded me so much of mantra and so repetitive prayer.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, it's very common in, we know the Catholics and the Rosary is held to such a high regard, and the Orthodoxy, they have the Jesus prayer, which is a little bit freeform. There's the general basis for it, but you can alter it a little bit if you desire or feel called to.
Yeah.
And of course, in Anglicanism, we do have the Anglican prayer beads, but it's definitely less common, I think, at least in the lay people, to pray in such a manner. But it's been across the board, and like you said, I liked how you touched on the early church fathers and those people that dedicated their lives to God, that really walked as close to the Lord as they could do, and we take these prayers and these practices from them, and they practice them, so we can trust in them.
Most of them are beautiful.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I mean, the Jesus prayer itself, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. You exalt Jesus Christ, you acknowledge him as the Son of God and also Lord in that beginner part. You ask the Lord for mercy, which can be, it's quite broad in what that could mean. It's up to him, in my opinion. And you acknowledge your state as a sinner. Oh, yeah. So it's a great, and it's based biblically.
This is important.
Well.
Yeah, this is important.
Great little compound prayer, and when you look into it, it's quite interesting, but it's beautiful. So the armour of God in the morning and evening is beautiful, but especially the continuous prayer. And Jesus' prayer has been the biggest weapon against spiritual warfare for me.
That's your go-to prayer, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's beautiful. It's changed my life and it's changed my walk with faith. And it's been a battle in itself to get into it and to acknowledge it and accept it because of my history with yoga and so on. But it is really beautiful. It's life, it's game changing, and faith, of course. But faith is already intertwined in the fact that we pray. Yeah. Even if we're struggling with a prayer, the fact that we've even initiated a prayer, it requires some sort of faith to some extent. So faith, absolutely.
And I got some suggestions as well. If any one of you guys just feel like, I'm a little bit unsure about these prayers, in case, like if there's some spiritual attack, if you are encountering something like when you just feel like you're not like yourself, you could just try something like the Lord's Prayer.
Lord's Prayer, yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
It's just, generally we'll all accept that, no matter you're Catholic or no matter you're Protestant or no matter you're Orthodox. If you are like, you believe in the Trinity, if you believe in the Trinity, if you're a true Christian, I think like this prayer is gonna help you a lot. 100%. Like even for me, I don't want to say even for me, like I'm nobody, but for me, I'll just pray the Lord's Prayer like 3 times a day. Like it just reminds myself. And sometimes when you're dealing with something, you just want some quick prayer, right? And sometimes you don't know what to say. Sometimes you struggle with words, and you just try the Lord's Prayer. Start with it. It's gonna lead you. It's gonna help you on connect with God. That's what I think, right?
Completely agree.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, it's talking to God.
Yeah, for sure.
Prayer is that it is. I don't want to say just that as if it's little, but it is just that we are talking with the Lord.
Yeah.
In all of those forms, and He will always listen. He's always going to be there in response to us.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's why it's so impactful and it's so beautiful. And prayer is such a beautiful practice to engage in.
Yeah.
I would encourage any of us to work on our prayer, whether it's just routine in the morning, in the evening, throughout the day, or if you do feel called to more continuous practices like the Jesus prayer or the Rosary, for example. I would encourage anybody to really work on that because, of course, why would we not want to talk with God.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a
Spend some
beautiful
time with him, right?
blessing that we can do so.
Yeah, spend some time with him.
Spend time with him.
Yeah, but actually, I could see the beauty side of the spiritual warfare that you're going through, because sometimes just because of the spiritual warfare, that it helps us and makes us realize how weak we are.
100%.
Right, and we need to rely on God. It's just like Paul. Right? He asked God, he asked the Lord, take away, the thorn in my heart. And, we don't know what thorn is it.
No.
But still, the Lord said, my grace is good enough for you.
Absolutely.
Especially because of your weakness, that actually you could see my grace. You could see how good I am, how great I am. Right? So I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I completely agree. Me and him were talking about this only yesterday, actually, about the differences in people's walks. We'd met a street evangelist that was out yesterday, and she was great. But she did say that she believes that you receive the Holy Spirit, you no longer sin, and that's it. You no longer struggle with sin. You're done. And she was very firm on that. And she believed that if that isn't the way that your story is, you haven't received grace.
Yeah, you don't know Christ yet. Yeah, I know that theology.
Yes, which I listened to and we took on, and I did a bit of research based off of some of the things that I've read up on, and the saints especially. Teresa de Avila was somebody who came to mind because I've read a book of hers. He was a Carmelite nun from the 15th century, and she really emphasizes that God is patient with us, and he will take years at times to wait for us to deal with our sins.
Yeah, look as the Israelites.
100%. And he doesn't just expect you to get it done. And he's patient with you. And she emphasizes focusing on the patience and the love of God as often as you can. And I do believe that everybody's walk is different. Sometimes we try to comprehend God in a way that feels comfortable for us as people or as human beings. And it's really easy then to sort of go into this place of trying to be cut and dry with how God operates and works, and believing that it's only going to be black and white, if I explain that well enough. But as you've just mentioned, we see with Paul, grace is enough for him, and I believe that God will leave us in certain fights. So we develop as Christians, as people, as men, as women, as brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, the whole thing.
It shapes us.
To shape us. And my battle with spiritual warfare has definitely, I've begged so many times for it to end. I've been angry with God. I've experienced the full array of emotions. Like, why am I still going through this? I've seen other people's testimonies, and they dealt with this for 3 months and then it was gone, and so on and so forth. Why do I have to deal with it? And blah, blah, blah. And in that is grace, because it's brought me closer to him. I've learned more about my own self, the reasons why I am the way I am, and him in that process. And I've needed it,
It reminds you of who the boss is.
Who the boss is, and that we are completely dependent on grace. There's nothing that we can do that could justify us to go to heaven, that could justify us and make us completely righteous. No matter how well you stick to the law or any of these things, it's still not going to be enough for God.
It's not about this.
No, and we are all in need of his grace, and him bringing us to that grace, whether it's through storms or for immediate peace. It's all a blessing, regardless of how it takes shape. Our journeys are unique and individual, as are we as people. And God's approach to us, God, I can't really think of how to term it, but God approaches us as such. He knows us better than we know ourselves, and he knows what we require, and which walk is best for us.
That's why we're doing this podcast in the first place, right? We want to reach out to all of you who are watching, and to let you know that you're not alone in faith. Whatever you are dealing with, and whatever you're going through, we have it here and we understand it. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, I agree, man.
All right, so I got one last questions. Answer me quick. If you could tell your younger self one thing about faith, what would it be?
I think for me, something that I've reflected on quite recently actually is being raised in a Catholic background, not too extensively. I was baptized as a child, but I was never confirmed. As a child, I believed, when you listen too much, it's let me think about how to word it. If I could tell a younger, small version of me something about faith, it's that just because, sin doesn't necessarily mean that you are bad or wrong. And I think as a child, especially if you come from a background in which you're already absconded quite often, for example. Absconded's not the right word. Sorry.
It's fine.
Let me just work through this. If, as a child, I was constantly told, I believe that Jesus perceived me as bad or naughty, you know, or like I was naughty, basically. And that sort of turned me away from faith quite quickly as a child, because I was told that God just thinks I'm bad. And God doesn't think that you are bad. God loves you. You know, God doesn't angry at you. He isn't angry at you. He doesn't believe that you are naughty. You know, and He loves you. You know, and faith isn't that. Faith isn't just you are wrong and you need to fix it. But as a child, I believe that. I think that's how it was. That's how I perceived it anyway, based off of my experiences. Yeah, I got thrown off when trying to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I could feel my mind getting a little bit scattered. But,
Yeah.
That's it, you know.
Okay.
I think that's what I'd tell my younger self. God doesn't think that you're wrong or you're in the wrong or that you're bad, you know, and sin isn't quite that. And, you know, He is love. He loves
Sin is something that, you know, makes you, it's a thing that you couldn't you couldn't deal with, because the punishment of sin is death. But faith is not just about recognizing your sin. You're sinful. It's more like, oh, the Lord came here and saved us from that.
Absolutely, man. It just, you know, it made me believe that God was just annoyed at you or angry at you or that He thought you were wrong, you know. It's like, wow, you get told off in school. God thinks you're naughty as well. You know, everybody just thinks you're misbehaving all the time. You know?
Yeah.
And I thought that's what God thought. Like, you're misbehaving. You know, you're bad. And He doesn't think that, you know. This is a fallen reality that we live in. But, you know, trying to explain faith and quite complex aspects of faith.
With both sides. Not just on one side.
Also to like 6-year-olds is quite difficult to do.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, we should consider how we explain it to them, because I was resistant to it from a young age because of that, you know. But they call it, I won't go there actually.
Okay. It's all right. Okay. Thank you. That's it. I hope you guys love this episode, and if you got anything to share, please leave it in the comment, and please subscribe and follow, and, you know, just share it out. You know, if you feel connected or you feel like you've been moved by this or whatever, you know, hope that we could see you soon. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So that's it. See you next time.